a very good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on the part of the world that you are in. Let me firstly take this moment to convey my gratitude to the highly esteemed team that is behind coordinating, facilitating, and organizing and making possible the Global Technology Summit 2020. And to you audiences, I send my salutations and I say, you know what? You are in store for some great delivery, especially looking at the panel alignment and the speaker lineup that's in due course. Thank you. With that being said, some of you may or may not be able to recognize the following phrase that I'm going to share with you. Balimi, go lema, temo. What that means, that's my native language of either Setswana or Sepedi, which is native to South Africa's Great North in the 9 provinces. What does that mean though? What that simply means is that joint ventures and collaborations in the villages where I grew up were the standard of the day, they were the norm, where villagers would come together in our agricultural efforts to ensure that when tools are needed, when efforts were needed, when energy was needed, we will pull our resources together to work together, not only to make the job lighter for everybody, but to especially ensure that no one is left behind. The widow who doesn't have anyone to work with them, the orphans that are perhaps on their own, or anybody who might be on a disadvantaged position is included in and catered for by those organic village level joint venture model. Why is that important? I'm going to share with you 3 things that are also in sync with the heartbeat and the vision objectives of Global Technology Summit 2020. Those things are what my village neighbors are reminding us at this moment of digitization towards a post-COVID reality is the following. Availing their tools, efforts, and time ensured access, collective access, so that no one was left behind. It's a very important value that I will unpack on further as I progress in my delivery. The second element, which ties to the first, is inclusivity and inclusive growth. Maybe you can even call it inclusive well-being, was just standard in a village. As in our humanity, we ensure that no one was left behind. Very strangely, that was 35 years before the UN and other policy frameworks pronounced sustainable development goals, pronounced that 2030 leave no one behind. We were being human. We were just being villagers collectively working together. And the third one that I will share that my village neighbors are teaching me, reminding me, and sharing with you is that in our selflessness in the village, we saw a result where inter-village trade and trade from village to village, you can call them village exports, was made possible by this inclusivity and was made possible by this sharing economy. With that being said, let me progress. But then again, what was missing in my village? I'm glad you asked. What was missing in my village, which is something that I've come to be very passionate about, parallel to our blockchain efforts, is that what was missing was technology and business acumen. Why are these 2 elements so central to villages, not only where I grew up, but to villages across the world? They are central because technology and business acumen and know-how enables growth, enables scale, enables commercialization, enables evolving from informal into the formal economy, which is where really all startups and SMEs should aspire to achieve that. And technology also avails infrastructure to villages that are perhaps far flung from the mainstream economy in order for inclusivity to be made possible. On this point, let me conclude at this part of the segment by saying, small businesses, you may have started small, but there is nothing in the rule book that dictates that small businesses must stay small. Growth, inclusivity, and evolving into the formal economy for greater commercialization is key for the global trade. So as we pause, let me also, the hat that I wear in blockchain, let me touch on that, having begun with technology being central to human development. As of 2020, December, on this date, let me remind colleagues in the room and audiences that the blockchain sector and industry is by now a decade old since it was implemented and mobilized into existence from the shelf of theory into practicalization. What that means is that the expectation is upon us, those that are in the global blockchain sector, in our own use case scenarios, to ensure that we evolve the industry from hype into practical implementation, to ensure that we solve the real problems faced by both large business and minority communities. What would we achieve by that? We would achieve stickability and greater adoption momentum, because that's what you get when you don't hype an innovation up, but you just target it onto solving real problems faced by real people. There are three elements that I'm going to convey to you, audiences and my fellow panels, at this intersection. The key performance indicators that will evolve, the KPIs that will evolve blockchain and other frontier technologies beyond hype into reality, they are the following. Let us ensure that when we build, when we scale blockchain solutions, we embody the aspirations to leave no one behind. That's the first thing. What does that mean in a practical sense? What would the world look like if our frontier tech solutions, particularly blockchain, can evolve the informal economy into the formal economy, because that's the future we want. Secondly, what would the world look like if our deploying frontier tech solutions, deploying blockchain solutions, manifests a reality where greater access is afforded those that were previously pushed to the margins of society? So access is key. Collaboration makes it possible, and ultimately we leave no one behind. The third pillar that I will share with you is that BRICS, the BRIC nations that India and Africa by default is part of, Russia, Brazil, and of course, China. The ethos embodied by the BRICS agenda, the UN, sustainable development, and other policy frameworks is such that they can be implementable when technology intersect with human need, when technology intersect with policy framework, technology intersect with the post-COVID real pain points that can evolve us beyond the scourge of shortcomings and shortfalls into centeredness, where technology helps us with the heavy lifting to materialize the policy objectives that have been slated. I'm going to unpack that further in a moment. What does that look like? Let me unpack that further. Just picture a scenario whereby policy on the one hand is the airplane ticket. I think it's safe to say that we are all acquainted with either flying or being familiar with the concept of flying. So what if on my right, policy is the airplane ticket? What does it say on it? It says you are permitted to fly. It says that you are allowed to fly. It says that you can and you should fly. But where does technology come in? Technology, on the other hand, is the infrastructure, is the jet, is the airline jet that actually makes the flight possible. Policy permits it, and technology, as the jet, makes it possible. Keep that in mind, because while policy might display great intentions, technology is the lever that, when mechanized in whatever shape or form, IoT, AI, blockchain, machine learning, and all these emerging frontier technologies, when mechanized, they avail the jet. Because after all, we don't want you to show up at the airport with a ticket that says you're flying today, only for the jet to be AWOL, to be missing in action. That's where policy and frontier technology with innovation, they intersect to deliver the aspirations that we all want. But what if? What if policy is present? What does that mean to us as fellow solutionists? If there be policy in place, it is our duty, and I charge us, it's our duty as solutionists, innovators across the globe, to ensure that we attach wings to these policies. We attach wings to these objectives in order to ensure that what is permitted is made possible. No need us talking about a future that's not materializing. So with that being said, myself and all of you involved, you are the hope of villages. You are the hope of cities and towns, to ensure that wings are attached. But then there's a second what if. What if policy is not there? What if policy is a bit sluggish to catch up with human-centered development? If it's not, as my learned colleague mentioned earlier on, that 15 years ago, certain unicorns, certain startups did not exist, but now they do. And policy is playing catch up to them. So I compel you, and I compel and remind myself that if policy framework is not there to respond to human need, we must still build, we must still innovate, we must still configure solutions that will move society forward. Because after all, we must be more than innovators. We must be more than solutionists. We must be more than entrepreneurs. We must be the change that we all want to see in the world. Those are the words of the late, great Mahatma Gandhi on that subject. As I close, let me take this moment to once again convey my utmost gratitude, my utmost thanks to the event organizers that configured this platform through their bold visionary leadership to ensure that across the globe, the borders are lowered. We can see technology without borders, best practices without borders, and we can solution our communities and our nations across borders. And if you've looked at the speaker lineup like I did, you will realize that you are in great company. The speakers, thought leaders, experts will be imparting insights that are helping to move the needle upwards for innovation and for human-centered developments. On that note, I would like to thank you for the opportunity once again and send my salutations as we continue to experience a front row seat position on what's being shared as we co-create, as we move from concept to collaboration. Much appreciated. Here is the future we want. Blessings upon blessings. Thank you.